Clarissa here. We are back in the limelight with yet another extraordinary entrepreneur. But before I bring on this next guest, I do want to remind you that you can listen to this interview on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and Podbean. Whew. On television, yes, we are still over on YouTube, but you can see us on Binge Networks, Roku, Amazon TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Google Play, Daily Motion, and 100 other smart TV apps. I'm going to remind you that you can see the In the Limelight with Clarissa magazine. It is intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. We do have Lady Fiona Carnarvon on this cover. It's a beautiful cover. She is Lady and Lord, married to Lord Carnarvon, that own Highclere Castle, which was Downton Abbey. So if you ever watched Downton Abbey, you'll know, you might know some of the behind the scenes of the castle. And Lady Carnarvon gave us a lovely, lovely interview there. You're going to be able to read the magazine on pressreader.com, which is the largest news aggregator that I know of, with publications from all over the world. And we are there. Or you can go to clarissaburt.com and read it there. I want to thank my friends over at My News Desk. It is the way that I am getting out newsletters and press releases for the last, I don't know how many months now. And I am thrilled because I am able to connect with journalists all over the world and let them know what's happening here in the limelight. So without further ado, I am going to bring in our next guest. And I really loved her story because she is kind of a Renaissance woman, if you will. The one that had one life and changed everything to have something even better, I think is what she might say. I'm going to bring her on. There is Genevieve Piturro. So nice to have, yes, I'm going to say it in the Italian way because I've lived there for so long. So Genevieve Piturro, lovely to have you here with us. I want to hear all about the backstory. So you were a successful TV marketing executive, and one day you picked up a pair of pajamas and said, I think I'm going to change it all. Let's have that backstory.
That's right. I guess I should say ciao, Clarissa.
Ciao.
Thank you for inviting me. Grazie.
Yes, of course.
Yes, pretty much. That's what happened. I wanted to be married to Tyler Moore growing up. I watched her and said, that's the life I want. This single woman, smart, climbing the corporate ladder in a man's world, living in a big city, and that's the dream. And as the firstborn of an Italian family,
a newsroom. And in the newsroom. That was me too, yeah.
Yes. And I was the firstborn of an Italian family. My dad came from Italy, not far from Rome. And, he expected us all to have an education, but the girls to get married and have kids. And I had to break it to him that, I wanted to be a New York City corporate girl. So after that, I got over that hump of telling him that. That's what I did. I was climbing the ladder and I wanted all the things that Mary had, and I was on my way. And I really did enjoy the life. I did. It's what I thought I wanted. It felt fun. And, I had colleagues and, great work in the entertainment business and TV syndication. And what happened about 12 years in is I heard a voice here, and it came from here. I know because I know the difference now between here and this chatter.
Right.
And it asked me if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? And it stopped me because I realized I was just running so fast for this goal, the top floor. Yeah. And really, what did it mean? It wasn't changing lives. It didn't have any importance, in the greater good.
Right.
And the next thing I know, a minute later, I'm thinking, I missed having children. I missed that whole scenario that my parents expected and, thought would be, the most wonderful part of raising children is seeing them have children. So I thought it wasn't part of my plan. At that age, I was in my mid to late 30s. And I started to call shelters to see if I could go in and read to the children at night there. And pre 9/11, you could do what I did, just called up and said, hi, I'm a nice lady. Can I come and read to the children at night? And they said, you sound like a nice lady. Sure. And I did that. I did that once a week. And I just felt so at peace. And I felt so grounded. Now, I didn't know much about the children, but I could tell. And I knew generally that they'd been through, awful things and trauma, and that they were there in this safe place because the people who were supposed to take care of them couldn't and maybe, caused a lot of harm and hurt. And it just took me back to just the small world of these children and me. And we sat on the floor in the shelters and I read story after story. And one night I followed to see where they were going to take them to sleep. And when I looked into the bare room, like all the rooms in the shelter, and lovely people trying to take care of the kids the best they could, but it wasn't a home. And when I saw the bedroom, shall we
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
there were cots and futons and 2 or 3 kids up on one, surface, and some of them were crying and they were wearing the clothes they'd worn for I don't know how many days, but clearly
Yeah.
not
Wow.
clean, fresh clothes, and no pajamas. And I had these flashbacks of my mom sitting at my bed, my sister's bed, my brother's beds, and the stories and the laughing and the snacks and the tickling and of course pajamas and stories. And these kids had none of that.
Yeah.
And what came out of my mouth was to the staff person, next week, can I bring some pajamas? And I don't know why, except those flashbacks, just really prompted me to notice.
Yeah.
And I brought pajamas the next week and I started to give them out to the children. And they were so quiet, but they sheepishly took the pajamas I gave them. And I was excited because I thought, this was a gift for them that I hope that they would feel my arms hugging them.
Right. Right.
And one little girl just refused. She just shook her head. She was so afraid. I don't know what something that must have happened. And she looked like, she was just in tight soiled clothes and she broke my heart. And
Yeah.
finally, after she watched me give them to everyone else and they'd gone into the room, she asked me, what are pajamas?
Yeah. Wow.
And that was the killer question.
Right.
And
And that's where the pajama program was born.
it was born in that moment. I didn't have that name, but I just had an obsession, a newfound focal point for my day. When I woke up, that's all I could think about.
Right. So how did it grow from there? What were your next steps to building? Did you start a 501c3 right away? Did you start reaching out to different people that made pajamas for donations? What were the next steps?
All good ideas, Clarissa, of which I had none except this obsession. I didn't know what to do because here I had a job. I had a mortgage on my apartment. I didn't know the first thing. I didn't know it would even be a nonprofit. I was expecting just to do this once a week and feel, like I was bringing some meaning to these children's
Sure.
lives and some love. But this obsession, all I could think about was how many more like her, how many more like her. And at the same time, the staff loved the idea of the pajamas and they were sharing my name and my phone number with their friends who run shelters. So my big cell phone, which you couldn't really take to the office in those days, was ringing and ringing. And I just couldn't let it go I had to answer. These people wanted pajamas for their children. So it just became an obsession. So for the longest time, I was juggling so much. Didn't want to tell anyone. I just met a great guy and I said, I've got to tell this guy what I'm thinking. I'm not happy with my career. He thinks I'm a career woman. And I made the mistake of trying to juggle and juggling poorly. And I got married and obviously I told him and he said, go for it. And we were married and I was doing this like crazy and keeping my job and not sleeping and worrying about both.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until a little article came out in a national magazine, parenting magazine, when thousands and thousands of boxes and packages showed up. And we both were opening them and crying, and the boxes were piled up
What?
in my one bedroom. And when I read a letter that said, please send us your 501c3 so we can send you a grant, I looked at my new husband and I said, what's this thing?
Yeah. What does
501c3?
that
That's a season of
mean?
3.
Wow.
Listen, that's how
Wow.
I learned. Wow, there's this thing I have to do. And at that point, I said, this is a responsibility. This isn't just something now that
Yeah.
I'm doing. These people trust me. And, I say everybody has a choice, but I knew it was my choice right
Yeah.
then and
So
there.
you were able to answer that voice back then. You were able to say, okay, I got it. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. I got it. I know
Yeah.
what I'm supposed to do now. Okay. Then you quit your job.
No, still scared because I didn't
Yeah.
have a nest egg. I wasn't prepared. It never occurred to me. I was racking up credit cards. I wrote a book recently, here, and I'm pretty honest
Now,
in it. And,
yeah.
there were a lot of scary days. There was a lot of irresponsibility on my part. My poor husband, who expected to have a wife, was, handed a robot, just answered him yes and no. And then, I have work to do.
Yeah.
So it was really, really hard. And I went from almost being fired because I just had no interest in my job. And I didn't plan that at all. I planned it poorly just to hang on until, I don't know,
Sure.
some magic happened, but no magic was happening. And then I went to part-time, and then I took project gigs, but I couldn't manage it. I couldn't manage it. And one day when it was really, I was falling apart, my husband said, I see you, quit. I will find a way. And we got by until I figured out, what to do and how to how to start taking care of those credit card bills, and just try to be a little smarter about making it work so that it could grow.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Life decisions, right? So there you
Yeah.
go. I
Yeah.
mean,
But
that
I
must
mean,
have been a really telling moment for you.
it was, and the big mistake was not asking for help. And
Yeah.
I teach that because that was a big mistake. I think a lot of us think, oh, it's embarrassing to ask.
Yeah.
I should know this stuff. I was a corporate
Yeah.
person and I'm a smart person, but I didn't know how to manage it. I
Well,
didn't
you only know
know.
what you know, and then you don't, whatever you don't know, you have to learn. But I want to know how you went from where you were then to being, interviewed on Oprah and Today and Good Morning America and the early show. You've been on CNN, you've been on Fox and Friends, and the O Magazine and Forbes. I mean, there had to have been some a huge learning curve, but you made it. You made it. You made it work.
Yeah. I started telling everybody the story of the little girl. I finally just opened the gates and just said, I have to talk about this. I need
Yeah.
support. I need help. And maybe if people understand why I've, made this switch, and I've lost friends along the way. And it was, very strange. I was in this limbo place, but I started just telling everyone and asking for help. And
Yeah.
it was amazing that when I told the story that I just told you about the little girl, how many people felt what I felt. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this is not acceptable. We can do this. We can get pajamas. We can get books. How many do you need? Where are these shelters? And I was just overwhelmed with the support. And I thought, my goodness, I've been juggling and quiet and afraid to talk about it because what am I really solving with pajamas and books? But everybody got what I got, and I didn't verbalize it until I saw the support. It's love. It has nothing to do with the material. It's that comfort. It's reminding the children that we see them from far, and just know that when you get these pairs of pajamas and this box comes to your shelter, it's because people love you, and we want to give you that hug. You so have a right
Yeah.
to that.
And what pajamas really truly represent. They represent comfort and warmth and security and caring and loving and home and parents and
Yes,
cuddling and
yes,
and feeling really safe, because it's a precursor to going to bed and sleeping well and getting up in the morning as
yes,
if nothing, right? So
yes.
what I mean is, it really is truly, it's the perfect object, to have brought it to brought to the fore for these children.
I didn't know, but I've learned in 23 years or so, through people's stories, moms who talk about the questions and the intimacy of bedtime with their children, and
Yep.
those of us who remember those times with our parents or our grandparents, or our aunt or whoever put us to sleep. It's that bonding. It's
Yes.
that foundation. It
Absolutely.
is the comfort. It is the compassion. It is the love.
So you
And
said
it's
that along the way
just
you lost
missing.
some. You said you lost some friends, Genevieve. Why so?
Well, one specifically that I wrote about, I was afraid when I started to think about telling people in business, not in my business, but people I knew who were on the same climb the corporate ladder that I was on, that same route. And I thought, let me try, see how it sounds to this woman who's about my age and been in this about a dozen years. And every time I practiced it, it sounded ridiculous. I'm going to quit my career and give pajamas to kids. It kept sounding ridiculous, but I had a glass of wine, met her, and I started to say, I've been thinking the rest of my life, and this all of a sudden doesn't have meaning because I went to a shelter to read, and I told her what happened. And she looked at me and she said, "Are you kidding? You're going to leave your career because you went to a shelter? Do you think you're going to save the world with a pair of pajamas?"
Wow.
And it was a blow, 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 blow.
Sure.
And I wasn't prepared. And it took me a long time to get back up because I didn't have the answers to the questions that she was asking me. Honestly, didn't have the answers. No, I wasn't going to save the world, but I thought there was something in between not saving the world and doing something to help.
That was a little harsh. That was a little harsh. That was harsh. That's not. Let me ask you this. Do you know whatever happened to the little girl?
Not Little Hope. We called her Hope because of the story. No, at that point, two things. That population, those kids go in and out of those emergency shelters. Yeah. But I never thought then to take any notes. I never imagined I'd be here talking to you, Clarissa. I never imagined that I would have to remember which shelter, what happened. And since, though, a few of the children in the early days, I do. And we honored one little girl who I gave pajamas to when she was 2. And I actually had a picture of her holding up the pajamas. And at our 15th gala fundraiser for a pajama program, I invited her back. I'd seen her over the years, of course. When she was little, we would read to her. And she was a senior in high school going to college. And to see her with a picture of her on the screen behind her at 2, to see her, such a poised, beautiful young lady, talk about her love for reading and the comfort and love she had every time she came to one of our reading events, just touched all of us.
Yeah, I bet.
I know. Yeah, Teresa.
I'm not crying. You're crying. I'm not crying.
I cried a lot, and I still do.
That's extraordinary. I'm going to stop just for a second to let everybody know how they can find you. And then I want to talk about your book. You are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. And it really, truly is, for the most part, Genevieve Piturro. I know I'm saying that with a very strong Italian accent. If you'd like to say how you say it in English, Piturro. Genevieve Piturro.
Yes. But can you say my first name in Italian?
Hold on a second. Yes, I can. Geneiveve.
No, Geneiveve.
Geneiveve.
That's my grandmother's name. That's
Geneiveve. Okay. Wow. You don't hear that one too often either. I can promise you that. And I don't think I've ever heard Piturro. With the 30 years I lived in Italy, I don't think so. But I'm going to venture to guess that they're from the south-ish.
Body.
From Rome down. Down to the boot. What did I say?
Yep.
I kind of knew that, but all right, we were getting close. So anyway, again, back to social media. Can find Genevieve anywhere. If you want more information, if you also would like to make even some donations, it is also, her website is genevievepiturro.com. So pretty easy to find her. Let's see the book, guys. It's right there behind you. If you could get it for us, that would be really great. I'd love to see a close up of it. I love the cover. Love the covers, the pillows, the whole, the half moon. It is really, really adorable, that book. Here's what I'm going to ask you, and I think you've probably already.
I'm going to show you the little girl.
Oh, is that Hope?
Yes, it's over the years, my memory starts to fade when I, bring her up in my memory. And I called my niece a few years ago in Chicago, who's an artist. And I said, if I describe her as much as I remember, can you draw her? And she said, I'll do my best. And that's from my memory. And she mailed it to me. And I started talking about crying because I saw that little girl again. So anyway.
How extraordinary. Well, I did put the ticker up below so that everybody can see your website and know exactly where they're going to find you. I did want to ask this last question. I ask it frequently. And it's a question that's not always easy to ask with people that are as successful as you are. And you cannot, however, answer your marriage or children. But what would you say up to date has been your crowning moment?
Ah, I said before, I think one of the best things is when Teresa came on stage at 17, going to college, and we all saw her at 2 holding up a pair of pajamas when she was in a shelter, and seeing her, a young lady that just, I mean, standing ovation for a long time. I think
Absolutely.
I said to myself, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I know that I didn't save the world, but all these people rallied for her and for others like her. And I pray that there are more like her going to college who remember that warmth that we gave.
Absolutely. And I'm going to add on to that, if you don't mind, and say I would say that follows a second close would be for me would be having to been on on the Oprah show and being recognized by Oprah had to have been extraordinary.
It was. I mean, I give lots of funny stories in my book too, because there are so many. I mean, between being nervous, I flew in a snowstorm to be on the show, and the plane was like delayed 5 hours, and we didn't get there till midnight. And the producer said, "Don't worry, you'll get here. And when you do, call anytime." So I called her. She said, "I'll give you a rundown what to expect." And she said, "Okay, tomorrow you're going to come in. You're going to sit in the audience, and Oprah's going to introduce you, and you're going to climb up a few steps onto the stage. Oprah's sitting on a stool. You're going to hop onto the stool next to Oprah." Clarissa, I heard nothing after that. Hop onto a stool
Next
on
Oprah.
the Oprah show without falling flat on my face in heels, because
Unbelievable.
I have all my girlfriends telling me what to wear, and of course heels. I can't believe that I didn't fall off that stool.
I know. Those are the
So
telling
many
moments,
stories. I mean,
aren't
she
they?
just,
But that must have been unbelievable. Well, good for you. That is
but
really
the
extraordinary.
show reveals a big surprise, huge
Uh,
surprise.
yeah.
If you
Well,
haven't
you
seen it,
see,
or
the universe works in very, very interesting ways.
oh, you said it.
Absolutely. Listen, I cannot thank you for taking the time, Genevieve, to be on the show with us and just kind of sharing this magical story that is your life. So I want to thank you again for being here and taking the time. I'm going to ask you to stay right there while I say goodbye to everyone else and give them an appointment for the yet next episode of In the Limelight with Clarissa, where I will bring on yet another extraordinary entrepreneur. Be well, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of the In the Limelight podcast, intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. You can listen to this and all of my podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and Inspired News Radio. You'll find all of my videos and the In the Limelight digital magazine on clarissaburt.com. And don't forget to connect with me on social pretty much anywhere. Stay well until we meet again in the Limelight.